Okay, we're going to talk now about what most people agree is the number one concern on voters' minds in the United States as they cast their ballots, the economy. To tell us more, we can speak to businessman, investor and star of Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Arabiya News. That famous phrase by James Carville, who was a strategist for Bill Clinton, he said, "The economy's stupid," and I think that phrase is used in every single election, probably everywhere in the world nowadays. Clearly no change to what voters consider most important since that phrase was coined 32 years ago. Let me start by asking you this. Are Americans better or worse off than they were 4 years ago?
Well, I think the only people that matter in answering that question are now sitting in 43 counties in 7 states, because they are going to decide who becomes president. It's a remarkable system, the electoral system, but it's been identified now. The new president will probably be elected by around 40,000 people out of 300 million. And so the intensity of this last day can be seen by where these candidates are going, 4 and 5 stops in each of these counties if they can, or their surrogates. The problem, both sides have issues, obviously. Trump is probably winning on the border. He's winning on the economy. She's winning on the abortion issue, which will never get settled in the U.S., as you're well aware. And it's just an unknown, because one of the challenges on this electoral cycle is that the polling data, which is getting worse every cycle. 30 years ago, the polling really told the story. Today, it's impossible. I'll tell you why. When you poll a county with 200,000 people in it and you get 1,200 of them on a panel on the internet on their cell phones, the margin for error is as high as 4%. However, neither candidate is ahead by more than 2%. So the data is effectively useless. It's completely useless. And now everybody's going into this election blind. My forecast of what's going to happen is these 7 swing states will go binary, one way or the other. We will know by 3 o'clock in the morning of the 6th of November who's going to be president. That's my take. I don't think it's going to be that close, because one side's going to blow out the other on the swing states. I just don't think it's that close. I think people have made up their minds. Which mind they've made up for which candidate, nobody knows.
Well, there's been one survey actually by the Associated Press that states only 38% of voters think that the national economy is doing well. And when you drill it down by party, 85% of Republicans view the economy as doing poorly, while 61% of Democrats view the economy as doing well. So why is there this huge mismatch between perception and reality in the US about the state of the economy?
Because the stock market is hitting new highs. That's the pro story, the economy measured by the stock market. But most people don't care about the stock market when they can't buy chicken or fish or meat for their families. Their gas prices have doubled since the pandemic. And their cost of housing, whether it be mortgage rates or rental, is up 30, 40%. And so that's a different economy. And that's the economy that you have to worry about in the 43 counties. If you are living, and as a comparison, off the average American salary of $68,000, you are not doing better, because every input cost you have to stay alive has gone up. And you're not happy about it. And I anticipate those people are probably going to vote for Trump. How many of them? We don't know yet. And there's some really interesting research that's come out recently about weather being the most important factor in deciding elections. For example, in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, where if it's bad weather, that favors the Republicans. If it's a sunny, shiny, warm day, that favors the Democrats more than any other polling data does. So you just don't know till tomorrow. Is it going to rain? Is it going to be cold? Who knows? So all of these factors are thrown into the mix. If you're scared about your safety, because in the US, there's a lot of stories about 10 million immigrants, many of them illegal, that have come in since Harris opened the borders, or maybe you should say Biden-Harris administration opened the borders. That's a big issue to you. But if you care about abortion, you probably are going to side with Harris. And again, nobody knows. And so even the betting markets in the last few hours, which were often considered to be the best way to look at the forwards in terms of the next 24 hours, they're all over the map. This is the most interesting election cycle I've ever seen. It's total chaos.
Well, continuing with these polls, the New York Times poll also revealed that 52% of voters trust Trump to handle the economy compared to just, well, not just 45%, but 45% for Harris. So in your opinion, which candidate do you think is holding the better cards, do you think, in this regard, especially when it comes to the economy?
I don't care about candidates because they're only going to be there for 30 months of any kind of relevance, because by the time they're lame ducks in the last year. So I don't care who gets in the White House. What I care about is what are the policies. So here's the difference. I've done a lot of work on the difference in the policies between the Trump mandate, what it could look like, and what the Harris mandate said she's going to do. In the case of Trump, and the best way to look at this is on the things that matter to the economy. After all, the only job that the president has in the United States actually is to keep alive the American dream. It's the #1 economy on earth. It's the #1 export of the American economy, not energy, not technology. It's the American dream. There's a reason people lose their lives underneath rivers and crossing barbed wire to try and get in the United States. It's the American dream. And so that's their job. Now, which one perpetuates the American dream? By buoying the economy. So in the Harris plan, she's going to raise corporate tax rates from around 21% to 28%. That's the highest tax rate increase in American history with the fell of one pen. That's never been done before. That's going to take a major hit to the S&P 500 earnings. That's probably not a good thing. But her reason for doing it is, well, I'm going to decide which sectors of the economy are important. I'm going to take money from all of them and give free money to sectors like chip manufacturing, as we saw in the Chips and Science Act. So she's more of the Soviet-style central planning. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. Trump, different. He's going to try and lower corporate tax rates so that every single economy basically gets a better chance. All 11 sectors get a better chance at what's going to happen in terms of their ability to compete. So it's jump ball. I prefer that. So I prefer that policy. Immigration policy is different. I like Trump's idea of reducing energy input costs because that reduces inflation. So right now I prefer the Trump agenda, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
And Kevin, does your preferring the Trump agenda when it comes to the economy include tariffs? Because, of course, that's a word that Donald Trump even says is his favorite word in the English language. And I'm just wondering whether you think the American people fully understand how tariffs work. Because, you know, in the past when we've seen tariffs imposed, they've triggered retaliatory tariffs. And who suffers then?
Well, actually, tariffs have existed in the Harris and Biden administration. They never took off the Trump tariffs. There's a bill going through Congress here in the United States, which is a equivalency act for tariffs. The idea is that whatever tariffs another country puts on, we do exactly the same. So a level playing field idea. So, for example, the Germans put a 10% tariff on automotive. We do the same thing. All that works because most of the trading partners understand it. NAFTA takes care of Mexico and Canada for the U.S., except China. China came into the WTO in 1999, and they have not played by the rules of that agreement ever, not 1 year, ever. So if you do business there like I do, we don't have any IP rights. Our IP is stolen. We don't have any reciprocal rights on litigation in their courts. We cannot buy land the same way they can in the United States. The compliance costs for them when they bring their companies public on the NYSE or NASDAQ are lower because they don't comply. And frankly, for most of us, we're a little unhappy with that. And I'm an advocate for raising tariffs on a temporary basis to 400 or 500% on China until the Supreme Leader flies to Washington and just says, I'm just kidding. I want to get a reciprocal deal worked out because China only understands the stick. And I think there's quite a bit of frustration. And the one that is most glaring to American citizens is TikTok, which was made illegal midnight, January 19th. It's considered Chinese spyware on a bipartisan basis of Congress. They would like to see it shut down. They're going to get it shut down. And the Chinese are litigating the American people in their own courts. You can't do that in China. You can't go back and litigate the Supreme Leader. And so this kind of tension is going to just boil over after the election. It's a non-issue till after the election. But I anticipate this reciprocal act, this reciprocal tariff act, will somehow get passed, with the exception of China, where the pressure is going to be on, because the US and China are in economic war against each other. And I think it's a good thing that it gets resolved now. So I think tariffs are temporary. If Germany wants to remove automotive taxes, it's very easy. They just drop their 10%, the US will drop theirs.
Well, a huge thank you there, Kevin O'Leary. Thank you so much for your insights and for being with us here today. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.